Hey everyone, welcome to Skill Capped. In this video, we'll be explaining aim in 4 different levels, starting from beginner level and making our way up to pro throughout the entire video. We won't exclusively talk about point and click aim since this is a rather simple topic, but instead the different aspects that combine together to create your aim. These are things such as your movement, crosshair placement, recoil control, and many others. Let's start off with the Rap Axe. They're bronze ranked, playing chamber on ascent. If we take a glance at how they hold some of their defensive angles, specifically how they hold A main and B main, we can see that Rap Axe has a solid understanding of having head level crosshair placement. We have plenty of videos discussing this fundamental concept, but as a quick reminder, or for the few that don't know, having your crosshair placed at the same height as where a player's head would be is key to finding frags. In virtually every shooter game, a headshot does the most damage, so having our crosshair placed in a way so that we give ourselves the best chance at hitting a headshot is an obvious skill we must learn. Even in bronze, many players understand this concept, but it's great to see Rap Axe actually put it into action. As we move into the second round, Rap Axe rotates to market through mid and is greeted by almost the entire enemy team with their backs exposed. Rap Axe does a great job at trying their best to line up the headshot onto the Viper before shooting. Unfortunately, this is where some errors were made. After missing the initial shot, Rap Axe begins to shoot their Ghost as fast as possible. At this medium range, spraying a Ghost is not ideal since you greatly decrease the accuracy of the gun when you don't space out your shots. Shooting in this frantic manner will likely cause most of your shots to miss. An alternative to this pistol spray could be to shoot at a much slower tempo to give the Ghost more time to reset its accuracy so that the shots have a better chance of going where you're aiming. Even though this encounter resulted in Rap Axe finding 2 frags, this doesn't exempt that spamming the Ghost at this range is likely a mistake. To drive this point even further, if we continue to play the clip out, we can see that Rap Axe duels the enemy Raze and repeats the exact same mistake and dies. If we slow down this duel, we can even see that Rap Axe crosshair was actually placed perfectly on Raze to land some nice headshots, but their decision to spam the pistol caused their bullets to go nowhere near the crosshair. Your point and click aim could be amazing, but if you never give yourself the chance to have accurate shots, it effectively renders your great aim useless. If you're struggling to find the right amount of time needed to allow the gun's inaccuracy cooldown to reset, go into crosshair settings and turn on the firing error option. This will make it so that your crosshair will expand depending on how inaccurate the gun is from firing. You will know that the gun is back to being fully accurate whenever the crosshair resets back to the smallest size. This can help give a visual representation of the rhythm needed to have accurate taps or burst fires. Just remember that longer sprays will have much longer inaccuracy cooldowns, so make sure to wait for the right amount of time before firing again. I do want to highlight something that Rap Axe does really well with their aim. If we fast forward to the 11th round, we find ourselves with a 3v3 retake. As Rap Axe walks out on Heaven, they notice a Raze at Gen with their back turned. When Rap Axe sees that Raze is not an immediate threat to themselves, they stand still and calmly line up a clean shot onto the back of Raze. A common mistake that many beginners make is when they see an enemy who doesn't see them, they immediately shoot without properly placing their crosshair onto the opponent. This makes sense if the enemy is looking at you, but if you have the element of surprise, take your time to line up a clean shot to guarantee that at least your first shot hits the target. Hitting the first shot is crucial to confirming the kill since it will tag them, making the subsequent shots much easier to hit. For those who don't know, tagging is a game mechanic that forces players to move slower after getting shot. So take a lesson from Rap Axe here and make sure your crosshair is on the target first before shooting if you have the time to do so. For our intermediate level, we have Garbage Truck, who is platinum ranked. One of the biggest strengths that Garbage Truck has in their aim is actually one of the downfalls of Rap Axe's game that we saw earlier. Garbage Truck, throughout the majority of their match, chooses to go for taps or burst fires whenever they're in a gunfight. If we take a look at a couple of their frags from this match, we can see that they almost exclusively burst fire. This is especially potent whenever they use a weapon like the Vandal, which rewards this type of shooting. The Vandal is known by many to have quite a high recoil and spread, resulting in many whiffed sprays. With the spray pattern being quite random in Valorant, always try your best to keep your fights within the first 5 bullets unless you're in a situation where you need to spray, since you do not have the time to reset for another burst. However, there's an even more important mechanic that Garbage Truck shows that many players fail to use. This is the concept of moving in between your shots. Let's take a look at the 3rd round of this Fracture game. As Garbage Truck moves into B site from B main, they spot the Sage and Canteen and go for a 5-bullet burst. Soon after, they strafe to their left and quickly redirect their attention towards CT spawn and spot a couple more enemies. They repeat the same process of firing off a burst and then repositioning to continue into the site where there's more access to cover. They prioritize mobility as much as they can, making it harder for the enemies to land a solid shot. Many of you may be considering this not part of your aim, but something that many people fail to recognize is having better aim than the opponent also encapsulates your ability to make the enemy's aim worse by forcing them to work a bit harder to land a shot. In general, a stationary target is much easier to hit than one that is constantly moving. Something we had mentioned earlier with the beginner level is that guns have a firing error cooldown whenever you shoot, so it doesn't hurt to keep yourself mobile during this period since you can't shoot any accurate bullets anyways during this downtime. With counter strafing being such a huge part of aim, your ability to sync up your movement with your crosshair control is a large component. And as we can see from Garbage Truck, they display excellent control of this by making sure their movement does not disrupt their burst fires or mouse control. On the other hand, Garbage Truck does have a flaw with their aim, which is a failure to consistently clear all of the common angles the defenders may hold from. Let's take a look at a moment from the very first pistol round. Garbage Truck is lurking towards Arcade while the rest of their team is on the other side of the map. Once Garbage Truck feels comfortable enough to start pushing into Arcade, we can see that they walk out in one slow peek where they first focus their attention to the bottom left angle and then onto tower. When peeking in this manner, you expose yourself to multiple angles the defenders may be holding while simultaneously not having your crosshair placement ready for each possible position the enemies could be. In situations like these, we recommend using the slice the pie technique. We have a great definition for this process in our advanced crosshair placement techniques video. Here's the specific clip from this video for those who aren't familiar with the concept or would like a quick reminder.
Let's start with one of the most common of these advanced techniques, called slicing the pie. This technique is actually a real-life tactic used by the military when clearing rooms by using the corner of a wall or doorframe as an access point and periodically moving to your left or right to gain vision of a new segment of the room. This process of acquiring vision in chunks by swiveling around the access point is what gives the tactic the name slicing the pie, since it's similar to how you would cut slices out of a delicious pie. The main reason why this tactic is so effective is because it hyper-focuses on the aspect of gaining information while committing the least amount of visibility of your body as possible. Cutting the angles that you need to clear into segments makes it much more manageable when compared to clearing the whole room in one massive sweep. This benefits our crosshair placement by allowing us to cut up giant areas with multiple positions that we have to clear into a step-by-step process of placing our crosshair onto one angle, confirming that no one is peeking it, then moving on to the next angle in the theoretical pie that we are fully cutting up.
If we compare Garbage Truck's approach compared to what the usual slicing the pie flowchart may look like for clearing Arcade, we can see that the crosshair placement is positioned in a way to have the least amount of readjustment needed if an enemy were to be in any of the common spots. In an alternate timeline, there's a high chance that Garbage Truck peeked Arcade in this same manner, but a player may have been playing behind the box on the floor, forcing them to readjust their crosshair placement, which is already a huge disadvantage. For our advanced level, we have Dorshi, whose ascendant ranked on the map Breeze. The main idea we want to highlight here in the advanced section is the concept of using anti-crosshair placement. First, let's hop into the 7th round of this match. We see that Dorshi is pushed up to the end of halls and attempts to lurk past the doors. After barely escaping the enemy chamber, they decide to open the switch door to assist their team on A site. After trading their teammates by killing the jet, Dorshi is placed in a situation where they know that the chamber is likely holding their position from bridge since they had seen chamber right before this situation. With this in mind, they choose to jiggle peek first, then wide swing. Unfortunately, they miss the frag afterward. This was an example of how we can use anti-crosshair placement to our advantage. Anti-crosshair placement is essentially changing your positioning on either a vertical or a horizontal level to subvert the expectations of the enemy's crosshair placement, resulting in either the opponent missing entirely or being forced to readjust their crosshair. This previous example displays the concept of using horizontal anti-crosshair placement. In general, when holding an angle, there are two ways to place your crosshair horizontally. You either place it close to the corner in anticipation that the enemy will attempt a tight peek to minimize the number of angles they're exposed to, or you place it far from the corner, expecting the enemy will either run past the corner absentmindedly or purposely wide swing to throw off tight crosshair placement. Since this is the case, horizontal crosshair placement can almost be broken down to a 50-50 coin flip of guessing whether the enemy will peek tight or wide. But in the previous clip, Dorshi had first shoulder peeked the Opper. This initial shoulder peek forced the chamber to hold tight, since Dorshi may have gone for either another shoulder peek, in which case he could maybe get a kill if he's holding his crosshair tight with the corner, or if Dorshi chose to go for a regular tight peek. The shoulder peek manipulates the chamber to hold his crosshair tight, and knowing this, Dorshi goes for a wide swing right after, causing the chamber to miss his shot since he had placed his crosshair tight. Even against one of the best guns in the game, we can use anti-crosshair placement to force our opponents to make errors. To break down vertical anti-crosshair placement, let's move on to a video of TenZ, who is immortal ranked. Here are two separate rounds from the same game. For those who are watching the video, do you notice anything in particular that these two clips are showing? The answer is that both of these positions overlap each other. This means that if an enemy were to peek at these angles, they are threatened by both the top boiler angle as well as the floor level angle, creating a coin flip of whether the enemy has to leave their crosshair placement high or low. This is a perfect example of how to use positioning to create vertical anti-crosshair placement. Another instance of vertical anti-crosshair placement is using crouch to change your head level. This technique is commonly used when players are holding angles quite close to a corner, such as behind the doors and garage on Haven. You're basically hoping that the slight elevation change of your head is just enough to give you the advantage to win the duel in case the enemy does decide to hard clear your angle. For our pro level, we're going to look at how Fnatic uses anti-crosshair placement in a much more nuanced way. During the 7th round of this Icebox match, Fnatic finds themselves in a 2v4 situation against FPX. Fnatic understands that they likely need a pick to equalize the man disadvantage to give themselves a chance at winning the round. FPX Angel throws their haunt towards the attacker's spawn, giving Fnatic information that he's likely pushed down mid. With this in mind, Enzo shoots a recon arrow as Boaster peeks mid. As you can see from Angel's point of view, the recon arrow had taken his focus away from having proper crosshair placement for an opponent since he wanted to shoot the dart whenever it was going to land. This slight moment of distraction was enough to give Boaster an advantage in the duel, giving Fnatic an opportunity to find an equalizing frag and change the situation to only a 2v3. Many of the abilities in Valorant require you to shoot them in order to stop them from activating, so we can give ourselves the upper hand by placing them in such a way to disrupt the enemy's crosshair placement as much as possible as we peek into them. Abilities such as Reyna's Leer and Sova's Dart can be thrown high to throw their crosshair placement off. Also, abilities such as Raze's Boombot or Sky's Dog are low to the ground, which makes enemies have to lower their crosshair placement to kill these pieces of utility. Get creative with how you can use your abilities to change where your opponent could be aiming. For our second pro level clip, let's take a look at how Ye uses his knowledge of Peeker's advantage to fight his way through a 1v3 clutch on Fracture. Immediately after his two teammates die, Ye has info about the location of all three of the enemy players, one right in front of him, one towards A main, and one towards drop. As many of you know, during these clutch situations, you want to isolate each person so that you only have to fight one person at a time. Ye starts this off by peeking and killing the Breach. Right after this, the Brimstone drops and starts to run towards Ye. In most cases, Brimstone has controlled the situation since he's peeking into Ye in order to trade out his teammate Breach, who died, to give Brim information about where Ye was. Brimstone clearly has the peeker's advantage in this situation, but Ye realizes that if he were to hold for Brimstone's peek, even though he knows where he's peeking from, the peeker's advantage that Brimstone has is too big of an obstacle to tackle. To counter this, Ye swings as Brimstone peeks to essentially steal back the peeker's advantage Brimstone had to equalize the duel. This heads-up play gives Ye a frag onto the Brimstone, whittling the 1v3 down to a 1v1. Ultimately, he loses the round still, but the decision to peek Brimstone as he was about to get peeked himself was crucial to giving him a chance at winning this round, since he had known he needed to regain the peeker's advantage in some form before Brimstone had completed his peek. This may seem like a small detail, but adding this technique to your gameplay when you know you're about to get peeked is a great way to equalize one of the most fundamental concepts that shooter games have. That's all we got for our video today, but remember that if you're really looking to improve at Valorant, I highly recommend checking out skillcap.com. We get it, you're just a player trying to get better at the game. That's why you're watching this video in the first place. You're capable of hitting that rank you deserve, but there's no shame in asking for a little help. At skillcap.com, we spend hours going through viewer-submitted replays to let you know all the mistakes that you're making. We also couple this with our Smurf commentaries to show players that it is possible to carry themselves out of whatever rank they're stuck in. It might seem hopeless at times, but trust me when I say we can help you out. All you have to do is check out skillcap.com. Link in the description below.